Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this very interesting little knife right here. This is the CKF Phillipe Jourget FIF23. That's FIF23. First off, though, I want to thank my buddy Nehemiah over at the Metal Effort channel. He's a buddy of mine. He's local in San Diego, and he loaned this guy my way. We meet up every so often, exchange some loaners, he brought this as like, yeah, after Blade Show handling this, like, yeah, I kind of need to get one of these for review. And so it's a beautiful thing. Thank you very much for that, Nehemiah. Next thing, let's do a size comparison. This thing is freaking-enormous, I believe is the proper size comparison term. Here it is against your Spyderco Delica, Ontario Rat number 2. Here it is against your Spyderco PM2, if I can ever find the damn thing. Here we go. So you can see here, this is huge. It's just gigantic. To some people, this is going to be normal sized, but holy cow, is this thing big. And there you go. Any other size comparisons worth doing? No, I think that should do it. I will go ahead and measure the blade length right quick here. We are coming in right at 4 inches, maybe a hair above if the cop doesn't like you. But either way, there you go. Next thing, this is a production version of the custom knife by Phillipe Jourget, the FIF23 knife. This is actually a very faithful sort of interpretation of his customs, because he had some customs there. But there you go. Next thing, this is not a factory edge. Nehemiah put an edge on it of his own, which is great. And then finally, what is a CKF? CKF is a Russian company. They import their knives from China, or at least parts, or some variety. Either way, China's involved, Russia's involved. But nevertheless, and this is being made by them, or at least by their factory. So, anyways, let's go on ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, the ugly of this very interesting knife. So on the good side, to start with, CKF has actually made a very nice step in that they are now providing a full set of hardware with their pocket knives, which means that even if there is some issue, if a screw strips out or something down the road, it doesn't matter because you have all the hardware. You can just swap it out, and that makes you not having to send knives back to Russia for service, or China, or wherever the heck they'd have you send it. That's a beautiful thing, and if you're going to do limited edition abandoned wear knives, then by God, that's the way to do it. So that's great. Next thing, this has lots of very nice details. You have a lot of cool details in that. You have things like internal milling. I'll see if I can show this off for you, but on the inside of the titanium there, you will see some mill work there that shows you, oh yeah, they have done their best to keep the weight down on this. Mind you, they haven't done a great job because it's still friggin' heavy, but they've done that there. They've got a nice low-key lanyard hole here in the back. They have this beautiful Zerk back spacer, complete with relatively polished surface, as well as these nice little edges here. All the interior edges are very nicely chamfered here. They've got a nice pivot here with what appears to be a pivot collar, but actually I don't think is a pivot collar. It's a very, very nice piece overall. They've got a fair amount of, well, just good detail here. It's excellent. So, the details are great. Next thing, this has a very nice clip. It is a sculpted titanium clip, but it works well. And it is designed to hold this guy nicely in the pocket, and given that this has no flipper tab, although it's certainly big and huge, it actually carries a little better than you'd expect. So that's a beautiful thing. Next thing, this has an amazing action. It is a front flipper through and through, although you can certainly pull it out that way. It works best as a front flipper, but it actually works very well as a front flipper. Even doing this under a camera, I am reliably able to deploy this guy as a front flipper 100%, and that's with my relatively small hands. My hands are not well sized for this knife, and it works great, and so I'm a big fan of that. The other thing I will say is that the action, the drop shuttitude of this is very high. This is completely and totally a free dropping blade. There is just no way to keep this blade up. It's a very, very impressive action. So as a front flipper, as well as just generally in the action, that's pretty great. Next thing, they've got a lot of nice finishes on this blade. Here, I'll try and clean some things off a little bit so you can see it a little better. But they have these zirconium bolsters. Now, look, I'm not generally a huge fan of zirconium as a material just because, well, you know, honestly, it's black. I don't need that in my, you know, I feel like, yeah, and frankly, the bigger issue is not only is it black, but if you scratch it, it shows those scratches very effectively. You can torch it back. Look, I'm not a huge Zerk fan in my everyday life, but I have to admit it looks really, really good here. The fact that they have done this with the Zerk and with the polishing that they have gives it a more compelling look than like painted black that you see elsewhere. Even though I don't generally like, you know, huge black accents on knives, I feel like this works pretty well here. I mean, this is one of the better treatments of Zerk I've seen lately. But the blade is also also beautifully finished here. I'll see if I can show that off a little bit. You can see here it's got a nice sort of a satinish finish going on here, which just looks great. It's got a very subtle swedge to it on the top here. Beautiful jimping in the back here. I mean, just overall, this is really well done. And even the carbon fiber is quite well done. It has the texture and feel of real carbon fiber. It has some very nice milling on it. It's just, the details are there, 100%. They've finished this knife just beautifully. Even the screws are nicely finished. You can see a little bit of reflectivity around the pivot there. Nicely done. So that's good. And then finally on the good side, this captures the feel of the customs very well. It feels impressively like the custom knives. It captures the spirit of Jourget's work. And Jourget is actually a maker who at Blade Show I kind of fell a little bit in love with, not like as a human necessarily, although I'm sure he's a nice guy. He doesn't seem to speak enough English for there really to be chemistry. But anyways, nevertheless, it captures the spirit of his work very well. Jourget has a certain, shall we say, big pivot energy, in that it doesn't need to be flashy. His work is very impressive, but it's not like in the sense of I'm going to coat everything in 15 layers of Damascus. If you look at his customs, very often what you see are, fancy materials like a Damas or a Damacore, but it's polished off beautifully, so you can just barely see that pattern. Or a Damascus, but it's anodized uniformly, so that you end up with that beautiful variation, but only when you're looking closely. It looks like little tiny chamfers that have been beautifully mirror polished. I mean, the feeling that you get off of his work is just like mastery. It's like, I am really freaking good at this, so I don't need to be flashy. And I feel like this, in many ways, captures that same energy. Using the zirconium instead of something, this looks like at a distance, it could be a polished, a DLC-coated, something like that. And so it kind of blends in from afar. It's not that interesting from afar, but you zoom in, and it's got very nice finishing to it. It's got some beautiful sparkle to it. Having a nice full backspacer here. Good carbon fiber, the finish on the blade, all parts of this just feel like they're capturing that same ethos as the customs, and I love that. That's a beautiful thing. And so, to me at least, all of that is the good, is that this captures the big pivot energy of the custom well. It's got great finishing, amazing action, good clip, lots and lots of details, and they include extra hardware. On the great side, this has an awesome blade. Oh my God, is the blade on this good. It is a big old freaking chunk of M390 here. It is 4 inches full of M390, which... yikes. But it comes to a relatively thin edge here, and it thins out even further as you go down the road there, and by the time you get to the tip, you can see it is this cuts beautifully with a beautiful, smooth, full, flat grind. Oh man, does this freaking knife cut. It is really, really good. It is thin at the edge. It is a great steel with a full, flat grind. It is just every damn thing I want of a production knife blade. I really, really, really appreciate the blade on this knife. I mean, the whole thing is nice, but man... knives should cut, and this cuts, and that's great. With a beautiful sharpening choil. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good. So, to me, at least, that's what's great. It's the blade. On the bad side, to start with, this thing is absolutely huge. For me, at least, I know this is, bias and whatnot. I like a smaller knife, but oh my God, is this thing big. It is huge. It is also very heavy. We are coming in here at a 4-inch blade, and we will go ahead and measure the weight here. We are coming in at 6.6 ounces for 4 inches of blade. That's a lot. That is absolutely 100% a lot. And it is also a very thick knife. I mean, I can kind of hold this, actually, here, I'll go this direction. If we put this up next to your Spyderco Delica, you can see that this guy is substantially thicker. It is really, really thick here. I'll try and measure the thickness of this guy here. Let me tear this real quick. Come on. Come on. I got an origin. Just a second here. Not like the cosmetics company, but yeah. All right, here we go. Go ahead. And we are coming in at 0.67 inches or 17 millimeters worth of thick on this guy. And that's not counting the clip. Yeah, that's beefy. This is a beefy freaking blade. Oh my God. And so as a result, this carries maybe a little bit less well than you might expect. Well, actually carries about like you'd expect for a knife this big. So that's definitely a concern, but it's also something that could be considered biased because a lot of people might enjoy that. Next thing, this does have some detent play. What I mean by that is, when this guy is closed, it does shake around a fair amount of the detent. It's not a huge deal, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. Next thing, the action on this guy is borderline scary. What I mean by that is I am used to some free dropping actions. I have the occasional free dropping action in my collection, but usually they have a flip-a-tab here. And the problem is that this guy falls shut without a whole lot of warning sometimes. There have been a couple of times where it's been a damn near miss. And I've found myself shutting this knife horizontally just so it's less likely to cut my damn thumb off. This is a finger guillotine 100%. Next thing, balance on this guy isn't amazing. It's a little further back than I kind of want it to be. Part of that, I get it. You've got a bunch of Zerk on this guy, which is another one of the reasons. I don't know. But you've got a bunch of Zerk here, and so the balance is a little weird. Speaking of the Zerk does scratch a little bit easily. I haven't scratched it yet, and you can, like I said, torch it back to health, although, again, you'll always show the scratch itself. That's going to be true of any DLC coating. They will scratch and then it will show, but that's definitely something you want to keep in mind. And then finally, actually not quite finally, the edge is creepy close when it is closed. You can see here that this is probably not a very back of the edge you're going to want to deal with. That is the downside of using thick stock, is it's easy to touch the blade here. Not a big fan of that. And then finally, it is a $600 knife, which, that's a lot of freaking money. And yeah, so I get it, and honestly, if this were a size I gave a damn about, I'd consider it, but it's a lot of money. That is a price that will be prohibitive for a lot of people. It's really good work. It makes the customs look a little overpriced at some level, but oh my god, is this good work, but it's really expensive. So to me, that's what's bad. $600, the edge is creepy close when it's closed, the zinc scratches easily, the action is borderline scary, balance isn't great, it is a thick knife, very heavy, and absolutely huge. Finally, on the ugly front, it is a limited edition knife. That means that they have, abandoned it from the start. They have decided they are only going to make a certain number of these, then stop. This is CKF's just way of life, unfortunately, and it bugs me every time, because every time they make a really good knife, they sell out quickly, and then you can't buy one anymore. Right now, preparing for this review, I can't buy one. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't. And that's a shame, because, well, yeah, you might see them pop up in the secondary market, but I really wish that they would keep the option around to do a second run of some of their, really well-received designs. I think that would be a very good thing, and it would be good for the hobby in general. I just hate limited edition stuff generally, and this is unfortunately a limited edition, so damn it, CKF, make more of your good knives. So, that's the ugly to me, is that it is a discontinued by design limited edition knife. Final conclusions. CKF has actually really been impressing me lately, because I had the Sukhoi on the table, which was really good. I had the, and then I've got this guy, and I handled some of their other stuff at Blade, which, although it wasn't necessarily something I felt, oh my god, I need to review this, I'm really impressed lately. This knife, honestly, is almost as good as the custom I handled. I mean, it has great finishing, great details, impressive action, good build quality. Honestly, it makes it feel like a Jourget, in a very real level, even though it is a production knife being made in China. That's really, really impressive. I will freely admit this knife is not for me. It is huge for a lot of folks. It is not, well, frankly, it's not for a lot of folks. It's huge, it's thick, it's heavy, it's got a scary action at some level, and it has a huge price tag. That's going to be a downside for a lot of folks. But it is still a very, very nice piece. And I've actually been hearing rumors of a smaller one of these guys, a smaller model of this. That would be great. If they did this at like a 3.25-inch model, something like that, oh man, would I love that. But, at the moment, as it stands, it's a little bit big. So it is super impressive, 100%. And it captures the ethos of the original nicely. It is a knife from the Custom Knife Factory that really feels like some of the very best parts of a custom knife at a price that is more obtainable than a $1,300 custom that's only available by lottery at a knife show, certainly. And so I really do appreciate that. I really do hope there's a small one. And ultimately, though, it impressed me. It's pricey. You're probably not going to be able to buy one, but if you like the size, you like the design, and you can find one of these to do, I absolutely think you probably should. Even if it isn't the fifth knife in your collection. Okay, anyways, there you go. Hope this is interesting to you and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of the day. Boy, is this knife ever gorgeous. Because it's a Jourget? No? All right. Anyways, have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.